NASA's Mars Rover Perseverance, the most advanced robotic astrobiology lab ever flown to another world, near the end of its 7-month 470-kilometer journey on Wednesday, million-kilometer journey on Wednesday, on a target for a daredevil landing attempt on the red planet, hurtling through space across the last 240,000 kilometers of its voyage. Perseverance was headed for a touchdown set for Thursday inside a vast basin called Jezero Crater, the site of a long-vanished Martian lake bed. Professor Lerothodi Leeuw is an astrophysicist, and he joins us now to talk a little bit more about this. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So let's just first start with the importance, the significance of this.
This is the most sophisticated rover that will be landing on Mars, created by anybody. It has a lot of very interesting instruments on it, and the mission for this particular, space flight is to search for ancient life, signatures for ancient life. It will also be testing some new technologies, such as space flight, such as turning carbon dioxide into oxygen for future missions, and a wonderful human sense brought on this mission in terms of a microphone that will actually be listening to sound on Mars.
I believe that it'll also be looking for microfossils in the rocks and soil there. So how will this help us?
Yes, so this would be fossils of life that existed in Mars perhaps a billion or so years ago. And the importance of this is that at the moment, we only know of evidence of life on planet Earth, this planet that we live on. We haven't really seen evidence of life at on any other planet in terms of, for example, microorganisms. So this would be the first mission to actually look for that evidence, and that is really revolutionary.
Also, what I find interesting is the Jezero Crater, I believe, is the site of a lake that is, 3.9 billion years old. And I wonder, what can we learn from this in terms of climatic changes, given the fact that Earth is already going through that?
Oh, yes. Mars' atmosphere right now is rather thin, but we believe that in ancient times, Mars had an atmosphere similar to Earth. And this has now thinned over time. What is happening to our own atmosphere here on Earth in terms of how it's impacted by climate change might lead to something similar to what happened to the atmosphere of Mars. So being able to understand how Mars evolved definitely helps us here on Earth understand and indeed try and help us be good custodians of life here on Earth, so that we don't end up in the same way that Mars did.
So I did mention at the beginning that this is set to be the most sophisticated rover ever made. So tell us what is sophisticated about it, and what will happen, for instance, when it lands in Mars. I know we're only going to get animated pictures of that, and it does have its own Twitter feeds, but just give us a sense.
So, indeed, at the moment, we are just getting simulations because the rover hasn't landed there yet. But the rover on it has a lot of cameras, so we'll be able to get very panoramic views of Mars. We'll be able to get video footage. As I mentioned, we'll be able to get sound. The rover will be about the size of an SUV, or as what we call a bakkie in South Africa. So this rather big vehicle, and it's being sent, to Mars. Like this other planet, and this particular vehicle will be able to self-navigate. Once it's landed, it will be able to find its way and able to drive for about 200 meters per day. So about 2 football lengths per day, self-navigating, searching the terrain. And while it's doing this, it will be looking for particular rocks that would, preserve these biosignatures well. And once it, identified these rocks, it will then drill particular rocks, save samples from that. And there are plans for future missions that will then go and pick up those samples, bring them back to Earth for analysis.
Okay.
And such sample returns from Mars will also be a first.
Just a quick and final question, Professor Leeuw. I believe that it'll also be able to record sounds. What kind of sounds could we expect to hear, especially if we're going there to try and understand if there's ever been evidence of life? Could there possibly be life there?
Yes. We don't expect to hear sound from living organisms. However, we may hear sounds that are related to the atmosphere, echoes that are different from here on Earth. The sounds are also just good technically. For example, we should hear sounds from the rover itself, and that would help us figure the state of the rover. Just like, when you are driving a car, you listen out to the sounds of the car and hear, how it's doing. The sounds will also interestingly be heard and used when the spacecraft is landing. So this landing that's happening tonight, 12 minutes to 11 South African time, that's when it first hits the atmosphere, and then 7 minutes it will be the surface of Mars. During that landing, there will also be sound recordings of the spacecraft as it goes down. And scientifically, you can also learn, how the vehicle is handling that descent from the different echoes of, going down. By the way, on NASA's site, every member of the public can go there and be able to listen to these sounds that we are talking about and listen to the other stages of the mission.
Professor, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we will get you back to talk a little bit more post the mission. Professor Lerothodi Leeuw is an astrophysicist.